questo momento. Come funziona?
Vabbè, a scuola non abbiamo una differenziata, cioè ricicliamo solo la carta e sì, abbiamo solo rifiuto normale e la carta, quindi cioè praticamente si può fare penso, fare la raccolta differenziata, non penso sia
Secondo
difficile.
me i rifiuti soprattutto producenti, nel senso la carta nella scuola si sa però voi che siete qua studenti cosa avete? Non so, la fine
Sì, no, beh, ci sono...
Cioè, che cosa succede? Perché io non un po' che
beh, c'è plastica, tutte le buste per le bottigliette, tutte le merendine, sono tutte plastiche, anche lattine.
Per quello?
No.
Non c'è. No, chiedo. Ma è
I would love to see in schools everywhere the biology teachers using the compost pile in their curriculum to teach about ecosystems, ecology. And you can see how such a compost pile could be used for experiments. For example, if this plastic was supposed to be biodegradable, then the students could put these in the compost pile and see what happens to them after one day, after 1 week, after 1 month, to see if they really are biodegradable. So there are experiments that could be done. Secondly, I would love to see in schools a club for composting, where the students become master composters. They would learn how to use a backyard composting kit. And then when they're qualified, they could go door to door to their neighbors and say, the community is providing these compost kits at reduced price or even free. Would you like me to show you how to use these? Now, obviously this has practical significance, but also psychological significance, because to get young people involved in community service for sustainability would be very exciting. I mean, I can assure you that in my work, I get enormous satisfaction for using my skills to help communities and helping to save the planet. It's very satisfying. So I would like people early to find out the meaning of community service, how meaningful it is to struggle for the planet. So, I mean, our motivation, particularly in America, on everything, is money. Money. So we say to young people, study hard, get good grades in your exams, so that you can get a good job, and you can make lots of money. And with lots of money, you can buy all the objects that you see on television. That's our message. Work hard to make money. And I say no, I think the motivation has to change. Work hard so that you can get a job that gives you meaning. We all need meaning. Nothing could be more meaningful than to play a role, small or large, in moving towards sustainability. It's a huge challenge, a huge challenge. Another thing that you young people might want to think about, if we could get reuse and repair centres, one of the things I would like to see in the reuse and repair centre is a workbench. A community workbench where you would have tools for every job. So people could go in there with their radios, their televisions, whatever, and repair them. And there'd be people there that would help you repair these. And students could go in with bicycles. You could teach students how to repair bicycles. You could teach students how to make bicycles. You could have a bicycle club. So you make the bicycles in the morning, you ride them after doing it. So this is what my dream is to have these reuse and repair centers becoming real community centers for practical things. And by the way, this whole zero waste movement is a different kind of politics in Italy. In Italy, politics for a very long time has been talking to politicians, talk. They talk and they say nothing. And then you expect them to elect them. But what zero waste is it's the politics of concrete action. It's the politics of doing. And it's the politics of yes, not the politics of no. I mean, it's all very well to no discarica, no incineratori. See, you need that. But it's much better to say C to Rifiuti Zero, C to sustainability. It's a different kind of politics. Zero waste is an incredibly exciting movement in Italian politics. And do be part of it. Be part of the politics of concrete action, local action. Protect your community. I'm sure you all know the story of Beppe Grillo. Beppe Grillo, comedian on television, he said the wrong thing. Bye-bye, Beppe, bye-bye. Oh, no more television for Beppe Grillo. So what did he do? He went around the country organizing big meetings. And he would be funny, very funny, but in the middle of his big meetings, 5,000, 10,000 people, he would bring on scientists and experts to talk about energy, to talk about transport, to talk about water, to talk about waste. I was one of them who went in these meetings. Very exciting, very different, unique. I don't know of anywhere else in the world where such a thing happened. And it attracted a lot of young people. And they formed groups called Amici di Beppe Grillo, Friends of Beppe Grillo. And one day, a delegation from the Amici di Beppe Grillo, they went to Beppe and said, Beppe, we love what you're saying, we agree with you, but what do you want us to do? We want to do something. And he said, I want you to go back to your communities and improve them. That's all he said. I want you to go back to your communities and improve them. And one of the things that they found that they could improve their communities was with zero waste. And so that was a very important transition. Because up to that point, when we spoke, when Rossano Ercolini and Enzo Favorino and myself and others spoke in communities, it was usually to communities that were fighting incinerator. No incinerator. And then we would offer zero waste as an alternative. But then we started to get invitations from communities that weren't fighting incinerators, but wanted to hear about zero waste because it would improve their communities. That's what this is all about, improving your communities. And I believe if we could get a movement where every community in Italy, every community here, every community in the world is attempting to improve their community, it won't just be improving your community, it will be improving the whole planet. The politics of concrete action.
Cosa ne pensi di questa proposta di zero waste?
Indubbiamente è una bella iniziativa cioè è ovvio che bisogna fare delle azioni apposta che dire no a tutto.
Sicuramente non siamo molti oggi, però veramente ognuno di noi, se andasse a parlare di quello che ha sentito nelle proprie famiglie, nelle proprie case, con gli altri compagni di classe, dire che questo è possibile, cioè che il cambiamento che tutti auspichiamo, perché soprattutto da ragazzi si desidera un mondo migliore, giusto? E soprattutto ci sono questi sogni e si cerca di realizzarli. Però quello che dice il professore, che dobbiamo veramente, che questo cambiamento deve partire da noi, e sono le buone pratiche che partono dal basso, sto dicendo questo, non è che ti devo convincere, però se ognuno di noi andasse a portare gli altri dicendo questo è possibile, e parte proprio da qualcosa che noi tocchiamo tutti i giorni, che magari ci piace poco perché il rifiuto, visto come rifiuto, viene considerato come qualcosa di sporco, e invece cominciare veramente a pensare al rifiuto come risorsa, e come diceva il professore, con le nostre mani essere consapevoli che tutto passa dalle nostre mani passa la possibilità di cambiare il mondo, ma nel senso che possiamo o gettare via pezzi di pianeta tutti i giorni semplicemente non separando i rifiuti, oppure invece possiamo consentire la riproducibilità all'infinito, cioè rendere le cose migliori. L'importante è già capire, avere questa consapevolezza sicuramente è qualcosa di importantissimo per noi giovani. E poi secondo me, poi chiudo perché vorrei partire da voi, lo stimolo bello della riprogettazione. Capire che questi oggetti che non hanno un futuro possono essere sostituiti, e voi potreste, io lancio come sfida alla vostra scuola, magari un oggetto all'anno che si scopre che è destinato a incenerirsi, per cui non è né riciclabile, né riutilizzabile, né compostabile, né niente, quello sarebbe destinato adesso come adesso a essere incenerito. Proviamo a lanciare una sfida e dire, lo riprogetto, fate voi, magari coinvolgendo, non so, la stampa locale, i produttori, dicendo guardate, ve lo suggeriamo noi come si può fare, nel senso, io per esempio la carta forno non la uso più da quando ho scoperto che non è secco, mi butto lì, magari non so se voi fate anche chimica, ecco, esatto, che bello se inventate una carta forno che poi è compostabile, così la posso usare ancora, cioè cominciamo proprio da piccole cose, questo che niente, poi volevo sicuramente qualche domanda dal pubblico perché sarebbe bello, insomma.
Il professor Connett stava anche dicendo che il fatto, questa sua bella idea della workbench, a me attira particolarmente, probabilmente perché sono una capra, nel senso non so riparare a niente, e lui ha detto è una cosa molto positiva perché crea comunità, il fatto che uno vada magari ripari un oggetto, chieda a qualcun altro consiglio, quindi dà anche questo tipo di feeling, insomma.
You know, another thing that I believe here is that we shouldn't leave sustainability to sustainability experts. We've all got to become experts in sustainability. Whatever skills that we have to use for sustainability. And I'm very pleased and proud that it's your English teacher that has been working hard with the student on this issue. And single phrases make a difference to me. That phrase, go back to your communities and improve them. Simple, powerful instruction reminds me of a story for an English teacher. It goes back to the 1950s, where Dylan Thomas, a famous Welsh poet, who wrote a play for radio called Under Milkwood. And this was first produced in New York City. And the whole cast was waiting for this famous Welsh poet to come and tell them how to pronounce the words in Welsh, etc., and to tell them how to produce this play. Well, eventually he showed up, and they're all waiting for the wisdom of how to do this. He said, I want you to love the words. I want you to love the words. That's all he said. No other instruction. And there is a recording of that first production of Under Milkwood. It's available today. And you hear these American actors going through this Welsh story, and they're fantastic. They're fantastic. And all the instructions they got was, I want you to love the words. Yeah. Yes! Hooray! You get a grade A for your class. She's not a student? Well, we've given you a retrospective grade A for whatever classes you took in.
Questi sono gli inceneritori. Molte persone pensano che gli inceneritori siano una buona cosa perché sono l'ultima generazione, perché hanno i filtri buoni, e per cui molti dicono benissimo che ci siano i inceneritori. Noi in Lombardia ne abbiamo 13, di cui vicinissimo a noi, a pochi chilometri Sesto San Giovanni, a Trezzo, di cui qualche settimana fa è scoppiato anche un incendio prima che si mettesse i rifiuti degli inceneritori. E volevo sapere dal professor Tonne se in effetti lui cosa mi dice degli inceneritori di ultima generazione, di cui tante persone sono convinte che sia buona cosa. Traduce.
Even if you could make an incinerator safe, which I don't think you can, but even if you could, you would never make them sensible. It simply does not make sense to spend so much money destroying materials. It doesn't make sense. Even if you could make a good incinerator, you're still destroying finite resources. And our task in the 21st century is to stop making objects and packages that have to be destroyed. So incineration is trying to perfect a bad idea. It's a bad idea to destroy materials when you can recover them. And it's a bad idea from the economy's point of view because for all the money that you spend building an incinerator, you create very few jobs. And what we see now is that once you build an incinerator, you are trapped because you put so much money into this monster. You have to keep feeding it. So right now, Germany is importing waste to burn in its incinerators because it doesn't have enough. Sweden is importing waste. Norway is importing waste. Denmark is going to be importing waste. And you are talking here in the north of Italy of importing waste from the south of Italy to feed your incinerators. So that's the problem. Once you build these incinerators, it costs it takes 25 years to pay off the capital costs, the loans that you've taken out. And that means you have to keep feeding them, which means you cannot go too far with recycling and composting and reuse. And so you're setting up a bad situation. But this is the problem has been that we've seen waste as a technical problem. And we've gone to engineers to solve this technical problem. We've said to engineers, please come up with a machine to get rid of our waste. And it was the wrong question. We need to stop making waste. We don't need magic machines. We need better organization, better education, and better industrial design. And none of those are going to be... Engineers are not used to that. Engineers are not used to organizing society. Engineers are not used to educating. So this is the problem. We've lavished attention on the wrong question. on what do we do with waste, instead of how do we separate out the resources and use them again. Use them again. Sustainability.
Non so se avete bisogno di un minimo di traduzione, signora, o è a posto così con la risposta?
No, grazie se mi traduce.
E ha detto che se anche fossero al 100% sicuri, comunque non sarebbe sensato, perché in ogni caso ci vogliono 25 anni per ammortizzare questa spesa, perché una volta che ha usato la metafora del mostro, una volta che hai creato un mostro devi nutrire, per cui si arriva al paradosso per cui nel nord dell'Europa importano spazzatura per tenere gli inceneritori in attività, dal sud importiamo spazzatura al nord per fare la stessa cosa, quando invece noi potremo creare lavoro e risparmiare soldi cercando di riciclare il più possibile. Lui diceva che il problema è stato demandare tutto agli ingegneri, ma gli ingegneri non si occupano di soluzioni di sostenibilità, loro hanno fatto questi come si dice, inceneritori e basta, nient'altro che quello, per cui non c'è, io direi che se mia la parola, un umanesimo insomma della raccolta dei rifiuti, insomma del dire non più cosa facciamo con il rifiuto, ma piuttosto come ricicliamo, come utilizziamo al meglio le risorse.
You can think of an incinerator as 3 boxes. The first box is the furnace, where you burn the waste. The second box is the air pollution control devices, where you try to capture all the toxics that are released, the toxic metals and nasty compounds like dioxins. And this box costs more than the rest of the incinerator put together. So here you burn the waste, here you try to capture all the toxics, and that costs more than this. And then, when you captured all the toxics, you've got a toxic ash, and now you've got to find the third box where to put the toxic ash. And for every 4 tons of waste that you burn over here, you've got 1 ton of ash, toxic ash, that you've got to get rid of. Now think about it, logically. If you didn't build the first box, you wouldn't need this expensive second box, and you wouldn't need this expensive third box. It just doesn't make sense. And that was true in the 20th century, but it's even more true today, in as much as we're now much more conscious in the 21st century about the need to be sustainable. Incineration doesn't take us 1 step closer to sustainability. Not 1 step. So if you pay for this big machine, after 25 years, you are no closer to sustainability. Because every time you burn something here, you've got to go all the way back to step 1. Extracting raw materials, transporting the raw materials around the planet, manufacturing new objects, more transport. Huge amount of energy, huge amount of pollution in all this process. And as I say, if you burn the waste, you go back to square 1 and start all over again. And we can't afford to do that. We cannot afford business as usual. Incineration is business as usual. Nothing to do with sustainability.
I have a question.
Yes, did you need that?
Do you think we have any chance to save our territory from the polluting the air with incinerators, polluting the soil? Because incinerators, we know that are polluting not only the air, but the soil, and water and food and everything. Do you think we have any chance to free our territory from this destroying economy and everything?
It depends, I think, on the people. I don't look up here for big politicians to solve this. I look to communities, I look to people to set a better example. If I think communities will demand zero waste, they will demand what they see happening elsewhere. But yes, we have to shut down those incinerators quickly. And it's serious. You talked about polluting the food. Let me give you some startling statistics which concern me as a professor of chemistry. In 1987, 87, it's before some of you were born, I think. 1987, where we calculated, a colleague of mine, we calculated that 1 liter of cow's milk would give you the same amount of dioxin, horribly toxic substance, as breathing the air next to the cow for 8 months. 8 months of breathing was in 1 liter of cow's milk, which means you don't have to live near the incinerator, you just have to eat the food that's produced near the incinerator to be exposed. So that's the first problem. You see incinerators, you see these tall stacks, you see tall chimneys, you say, it's going to be dispersed, it's going to be diluted. By the time it gets down to me, I'm okay. But what we forgot, what our engineers didn't understand, is that nature reconcentrates the toxins in fish, in grazing animals. So that's the first thing. The animals are collecting the dioxin. And so when we eat the animals, we get the dioxin. Now the problem is that the liver, which normally converts pollutants into water-soluble materials, which you can then get rid of through the kidney, get rid of it, doesn't work for dioxins. And so what happens? Where do the dioxins go then? They go into our fat, into our body fat. And the man cannot get rid of the dioxins in his fat. But a woman can. A woman can get rid of dioxins. How? By having a baby. So she collects the dioxins in her body by eating the food in this area, accumulates in her body for 25 years, and then she has a baby, and then in the first 9 months, that dioxin is going from her body to the baby, to the fetus. And the dioxins interfere with development, mental development, sexual development. That's the problem that we're confronted with. Now, I'm not saying this to scare you. What I'm saying is, at the first opportunity, shut those incinerators down. Certainly don't build any more, and certainly don't be silly enough to import waste and burn from other places to burn here, because you'll be poisoning your own babies. So when you see less and less waste going to those incinerators, you should be celebrating and not use this as an economic opportunity to import waste from somewhere else. That's what you've got to tell your politicians. We don't want you to make money out of this. This is our health that we're talking about. This is our babies. This is our future that we're talking about. So now we know there's a better alternative. Let's end the old bad ways.
intervento. Chi aveva il microfono? Volevo solo una cosa sola, a proposito della diossina. Non mi ricordo dove è successo, però è successo che hanno fatto chiudere un cementificio. Voi sapete che i cementifici possono bruciare i rifiuti per alimentare il loro forno, perché hanno fatto analizzare il latte materno prodotto proprio dalle mamme ed era contenuto un alto livello di diossina. Si sono attaccati a quello perché purtroppo in Italia non ci sono altre possibilità, ma questo comitato ha fatto proprio analizzare il latte materno per dimostrare gli effetti terribili di queste sostanze che vengono poi messe nell'atmosfera e tutti respiriamo.
Io ho ritenuto inopportuno fermarlo continuamente però se ci fosse qualcosa che vorreste che si chiarisse, siamo qua, perché mi ha appena detto, ho l'orribile sensazione che non capisco quello che io sto dicendo, ho detto no, non credo, però dico, come prima la signora ha chiesto se aveva bisogno, ho chiesto se avesse bisogno e ha risposto, quindi se c'è qualcosa, adesso non so se è stato chiaro il problema della diossina, che è uno dei più letali residui praticamente, e che, come diceva il professor Connett, non viene più elaborato dal fegato o dai reni degli uomini. Nelle donne viene eliminato, ma solo per passare al feto, quindi voglio dire, la cosa non consola, infatti poi ha aggiunto altri elementi la signora qui presente, quindi ecco, se c'è altro di quanto avete sentito, qualche cosa che vi è sfuggita, chiedete pure, poi
Yes.
Anche no, prima lui.
Oh, the one and then two. Good.
Teacher is curious, of course. Is there any question? I give the priority to them, of course. Okay, so my question. First of all, thank you very much, Paul, for your wonderful lesson, because you energized us very much so, like this green energized. The question is, coming back to the incineration, how could you code plasma technologies with zero waste program, let's say, because nowadays in Italy, as we heard from the person, the teacher, there are many incinerators, and we need to change also, we hope, very soon our capability to cope with zero waste program. But in the meantime, we have the problem of dioxins, toxic agents, and so far. So what do you think about plasma technologies, particularly for ashes?
Yeah. I'm going to perform a little play for you. A little play.
Oh, sì,
non lo sentite bene.
Allora, sostanzialmente questo, la signora ha appena fatto un intervento sugli inceneritori perché in Lombardia con gli umani eccetera siamo ormai rovinati da questa tipologia di incenerimento che è un danno. D'altra parte vorremmo tutti, e grazie a città come Vimercate, implementare il piano Zero Waste. Però c'è un lascio di tempo, un orizzonte di tempo, perché l'implementazione di Zero Waste non è che si fa da oggi a domani mattina, ci vogliono anni. A questo punto la domanda è, siccome ci sono delle altre tecnologie alternative all'incenerimento, una di queste è la tecnologia del plasma, molto sofisticata che viene utilizzata in Giappone per esempio, scusate, e anche in Francia, moltissimo, la domanda è che cosa ne pensa Paul Connett di questa applicazione.
So my little play.
In risposta.
What is waste? What is this problem that we're talking about? Waste. What is this waste? Paper, cardboard, plastic, glass, food scraps. It's terrible stuff! Awful! It's waste! What are we going to do? We're going to build a huge, expensive machine with huge, expensive technology to deal with this paper, cardboard, glass, metal, plastic, food scraps. Give me a break. This demands separation, organization, education. It doesn't demand complicated, expensive machines. So the answer to your question, plasma art is just, again, an attempt to get a sophisticated engineering solution to a simple problem. The problem of how we deal with paper, plastic, cardboard, etc. Of course, the problem is made when you mix all this stuff together and it stinks. And it's the difference between what the problem is when you study it in its simple household terms. So I see this as a scientist and say, what's waste? And I go to there and I see that as a simple solution. But if you are a municipal official in a big city like Milan or Naples or London or whatever, you don't see the separate container. You see 6,000 tons of this coming to you every day. And you've got to do something with it. And if you don't do something with it, there's going to be a crisis. So which is the more sensible perspective? Do you say, I've got to deal with 6,000 tons of waste? Or do you say, we've got to organize each household to separate early and collect different materials and recycle and reuse and compost and reuse? As I said before, the problem was we gave this problem to engineers. And it was always seen as this crisis, with thousands of this tons of wood. And nobody thought that you can actually organize a whole city to do that, separation. But now we have cities that are doing it. San Francisco, Salem, others. So that's my little play. Thank you very much.
Come on, Claudia.
Not true.
The professor said that if everyone faces like American people do, but that doesn't mean that American people waste more, and it's just because they are more than Europeans, or it's because they consume more.
This is it.
But you said that we would be full planners
Yes.
for the consumerism of the US
Yes.
and to consumerism all over Europe.
Yes.
Is it because the Americans are more or because they consume more?
No, because they consume more. Yes, they consume more. Yet we get so much advertising in the United States. By the time a child has left high school in the United States, they will have watched 350,000 TV commercials. And those TV commercials are telling them to consume. Every 7 minutes on television we're told to consume something. Every seven minutes. And the philosophy, which incidentally we are exporting around the world, is the more you consume, the happier you become. And it's a lie. We are consuming 5 times more than people in the last century, beginning of the last century. We're not 5 times happier. So the myth is the more you consume, the happier you become. The reality is the more you consume, the fatter you become. and the more waste you produce. So, yeah, we are the worst offenders on this thing. And Mahatma Gandhi said, the world has enough for everybody's need, but not for everybody's greed. So we're dealing with false wants, false needs. Fashion is probably the most pernicious. Oscar Wilde said, "What is fashion?" He says, "What is fashion?" He says, "Fashion is something which is so ugly, it has to be changed every few months. You have to keep." So, yeah, Americans consume more and more. But the seduction that we are confronted with is the phrase standard of living. The so-called standard of living is going to keep going up, and the desire for standard living, you've got one television, you want two, then you want three, you've got one car, you want two cars, you get three cars, you get one telephone, you get two, you get three, and then a yacht, and then a bigger yacht, and then whatever. There's no end to this so-called standard of living. And what we have to do is to change the concept of standard of living to quality of life. Standard of living is tied to consumption, but quality of life can be separated from consumption. So we've got to think in terms of what activities make us happy without consuming the next generation's resources, which is what sustainability is about. How do we reduce material consumption without becoming more miserable? We want to see material consumption come down, but happiness going up, the quality of life going up. And I would put to you that one of the differences between America and Europe, particularly Italy, is that you know more about the quality of life than we do. You know more about living in community. You know more about celebrating life in your communities, about dancing and partying and so on. Vino Rosso, of course, and so you're closer to it. It's going to be easier for you to make the transition. And especially with Italy's most beautiful country. Everything is beautiful about Italy except one thing: your politicians. Not the local ones, the big ones, the Berlusconi, etc. They're just talky. So, quality of life. And I have, back in the 1960s, when I first became an activist, a young Englishman in America, I was involved with the Vietnam peace movement. And we had a wonderful slogan then. Wonderful slogan. It was, "Make love, not war." But now we have a war on waste, so we have to change this to make love, not waste. Make love, not waste. Well, it gets more difficult as you get older to do that. I did my best with making love, not war in the 90s. It's more difficult. So I changed it to make friends, not waste. It's a way of saying that life is not about consuming objects. Life is about developing human relationships. The more, the better. There is absolutely no limits to the number of human relationships that you can have. The one thing that you can have increased growth of all the time is friendship and love. These don't cost very much. This is what we need to invest in. In other words, the opposite to overconsumption is community development. which is to take the community that you live in and increase the number of relationships that you have in that community, where you can work together, play together, celebrate together. And if you live in a vibrant community, you don't need all these objects. You really don't. I'm not suggesting we all become incredibly poor and have nothing. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just suggesting we need to get a better balance. And also definitely avoid the throwaway stuff. If we're going to use objects, let's make sure that they're used again and again and again. That's very simple for us. It's a good starting place. I think you've had enough. I think it's time for you to go home and make love. I come into these meetings tired and I come out very stimulated. Very stimulated. You've been a great audience. You've all got A's.
Well, I'm very pleased with them. I must say that.
Your teacher's very pleased with you and you can expect good grades.
Then please say thank you to Professor Emeritus Paul Connett on behalf of my principal, Mr. Sala here, and the whole school, especially my students, of course. And it was an honor to have you here. You know, we're really delighted to have you here. It was such an interesting lecture. It really was, and it gave us food for thought.
Oh, good. Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Grazie.